Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, with the announcement of portfolios and subsequent swearing in of ministers by President Bola Tinubu, Nigerians are now clear of who will run the affairs of the country in their various assigned ministries. However, some are wondering how the performance of those appointed will affect the ordinary Nigerian. Will they move the needles in their ministries in the right direction? And their expectations, given the background of those affected, and that will be our focus on the show today. But let's first of all take a look at the trending topics in the past week before we get into the conversation.
The Kaduna State government entered into an agreement with Google to train 5,000 women and girls in data science, artificial intelligence, and entrepreneurial application technologies. And this got many Nigerians excited. Google says this is part of a broader skill development program to empower 20,000 more women across Nigeria. It was tears for England players and fans as Spain beat them 1-0 to clinch the 2023 Women's World Cup trophy on Sunday. The victory made La Roja the first team to hold the Under-17, Under-20 and senior titles at the same time. Spain and Germany are now the two nations to win both the men's and women's tournaments.
Well, there you go. Those were some of the trends in the past week. But joining us today to take a look at the topic that we earlier introduced, we have with us right here in the Abuja studio, Chojo Adejo is driven by a passion for advocacy in social development and the creation of opportunities for change, development, and poverty alleviation. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the show today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also have joining us via Zoom from Monrovia in Liberia, Elvis Akpobi. He's a youth advocate and social developer who is currently the founder and executive director of the Not Too Young to Lead initiative. Elvis, it's a pleasure to have you on the show as well.
Hi, Victor. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to always have you. But kicks out the conversation for us. What are your expectations?
Well, I think just like every Nigerian, the expectations are really high. We're at a time where a lot of things are not working for us at this time. And so having new ministers, it's quite exciting. It's quite exciting to see the list of persons that's there. Of course, there's a ton of credence to a lot of the people on the list. And I think Nigerians are just hopeful and looking forward to what possibly would come out of all of this. I know there are several expectations across board in the area of people expecting things to turn around in terms of the economy. There's things to look out for there. In the area of security, there's a lot more to talk about. In the area of education, there's a ton of things to speak about. In the area of health, I'm excited for some of the ministries, of course, but I know that people would also have their own concerns regarding the persons that have been listed, often being the debate around political reward versus competence and so on and so forth. But I'm sure that's why we're here to speak about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm quite tickled by the issue of political reward and competence. I mean, we've had this conversation. In fact, some people protested in 2019. Speaking about not being rewarded for the hard work they did for the party. Yeah. But again, like you said, that's why we're here. So we'll get into that again later on in the show. But let's also quickly get what is tickling Elvis's fancy. Now that the coast is clear and everybody has been assigned, to their ministries, so they have to face the job at hand. But Elvis, what is your focus? Where would you expect to see some changes being made?
My primary constituency, which is the young people, which make up a larger demographic in our society today. They are mostly the vehicles used in perpetuating violence and all that. Then electricity. We want when a society that has steady power supply, good roads, then human capital development. For now, with this, I'm okay because I always believe that we can't bend Nigeria into the shape we want, but we can bend the slice of it. But if we have electricity, good road, human policies for human capital development, which is mostly the young people, security, I think we're good to go.
Oh, yeah, security seems to be, one of the things that has also popped up earlier on, while Chojo was also speaking. But speaking of your own constituency, like you put it, which is the young, are you satisfied with the representation, of young people in the cabinet formed?
I'm not satisfied, but like I always say, we'll always start from somewhere. And it's not really about young people. It's about young people with character, capacity, and competence. It's not about, my friend over there talked about rewards for people that worked, but it should be a measure of people who will change the narrative, people who will put Nigerians' interests first before their personal interests, people who will make policies that will make our youth stay back and not always exiting Nigeria. Because for me, when we exit Nigeria, we'll always be the second fiddle back there. We'll never be first class back there. And we are potentials that used to grow other Western societies, which for me is not comfortable. If most Nigerians have engaged and young Nigerians have engaged and spoken with, if we have an enabling environment where there's good road, electricity, security, equal opportunities for young people, I'm sure we'll do better than where we are today.
Well, speaking of doing better, Chojo, let me come back to you now. You raised the issue of political reward and competence, but the ultimate for everyone is for anyone who occupies an office to do better. So again, it's talking about the representation of young people in the formed cabinet. Like you said, he is not satisfied, but you perhaps might have a different view. Or what are your thoughts when you saw the ministerial list?
Yeah, when I saw the ministerial list, I felt there was a good balance between, political reward and also trying to make opportunity available for youths, women as well. Now, the conversation around political reward is often something that always needs to be had because we are at a dispensation where a lot of young people have not been actively involved in the politics of things. Now, you'd only truly expect that people will be rewarded.
When you say they're not actively involved,
yeah,
because I want, like you said, you use young people when you're campaigning.
Yeah,
they are the ones, on social media making all of the noise.
Yeah,
they are the ones on their systems and cyber cafes drawing up all of the the campaign posters.
Yeah,
all of the what would I call that, infographics, and all those things. So when you talk about active involvement,
yeah,
I'm wondering.
Yeah, so active involvement and participatory involvement are two different things. So I can be on social media, I can create different graphics and things, but if you understand the nature of our economy and the way Nigeria is designed, a lot of the things that happen is down towards the grassroots, mobilizing people from bottom up, not from top to bottom. And so there's this popular saying from a friend that, look, if you're on social media, you're perhaps not the average Nigerian. And so in a large sense, what you see is that a lot of the people that need to be reached out to down in the grassroots. I participated in the last election fully, and I personally even did that late. In fact, I was supporting a different candidate from the current president, and what I saw during my experience there is that there is still a lot of gap for young people to fill. Now, until young people get in the rooms where these conversations are being had, until we have discussions with our elders and try to find a middle ground across whatever it is we desire or we want, it will be very hard to see some level of progress. Now, from a young person's perspective, yes, I have that bias to sort of feel emotionally to say, okay, you know what, I feel underrepresented and all of that. But the fact of it is that I've not been in the room for as long as possible. And so when it comes to matters like this, typically you would have a case where people would typically want to balance that sort of allocation of who gets what and what gets...
The scales,
the scales of whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yes, I definitely am empathic to the cries of young people, and I want to see more young people, but I do believe that young people need to come into the fold, get in the rooms, get into a party. Just to point out, the reason why I'm more on TV these days is because I became a lot more involved. I became a lot more, I started to think more towards, what's the future going to be like, and how can more young people get involved in the conversations? Yeah. And that's basically why I'm here today. And I've also tilted my own career path to kind of also adjust to this reality, because if we don't have more young people in the room, then wrong decisions could be made that would affect the younger generations and those after us. So yes, I do agree that yes, we can be emotionally biased to the fact that yes, there's not a ton of young representation, but also understand that in the game of politics, you have to give to collect. So that's how it works.
In other words, young people need to be more intentional than they are in terms of their participation, in the political space. But I'm beginning to think, in your own case, you had to make that mental, not mental really, you had to be in the space to understand what the space looks like. So you were driven by some form of passion, or there was something that pushed you to actively engage. So what would you be telling others? What was the motivation for you to, first of all, get into that activity?
Yeah, so the motivation for me was quite critical. So I consider myself quite privileged to be exposed, to have gone to school, schooled in Nigeria as well as schooled overseas. As part of my credence, I have a BSc in Information and Communication Technology, as well as a master's from Aston University, where I studied at the Aston Business School. And in that light, I also have a degree in International Business and Strategy. Now, coming from where I come from a village called Ojuwo Oginago in Kogi State, particularly Imani, which is a town in Olama Borough local government. Now, my place is devastated by tons of erosion. There's no healthcare. There is absolutely no semblance of educational facilities. Literally nothing exists. Now, the fact of it is that I've been put in that place for a reason, I do believe, in the sense that, I've been exposed, and I'm in Abuja, so why can't I advocate for the people, my ancestral land, and the people who look up to me? And for some of us, it's a case where we have all of this exposure. We've traveled far and wide. We've gotten the best education and everything, and we keep on chasing after things that perhaps may not exactly be in the best interest of the people who we are meant to serve. So for me personally, I decided to take a step back, think about it, and also consult with some other mentors to see, okay, how can I turn things around for my place?
Yeah. So that's another key thing, mentorship. Let me quickly bring Elvis to speak, as to mentorship. Elvis, young people, like they say, you need to look up to someone, you need to look up to something. There has to be something motivating you. What role do you think mentors would play moving forward, in terms of trying to get young people, to get into the space? Are there enough mentors out there, pretty much, in the political space?
Yes, there are enough mentors, but it depends on what you call mentors. If they are emitting bad rays, they are teaching the younger generation bad things or good things. Because when you teach young people something over and over again, they become that thing. Let's ask ourselves, what have the present set of leaders, those who contracted governance with our votes, what have they taught us? And for me, I have a mentor in different spheres of life. I have a mentor in leadership. I have a mentor in the political space. And being a mentor too, you will not take everything up from that. Being a mentee, I won't take everything 100% from my mentor, because my mentor too should have a flaw. He has his flaw, which for me might not be in sync with mine. So it's just taking the good part and, bringing it out to the society, like, okay, this person is from this school of thought, but he was able to be this, or this person is from this, I have this person is his mentor and he did well. And sometimes the kudos goes back to the mentor. I'll take, for example, I always want to use myself as an example. I have someone that picked me from nowhere, the immediate past principal secretary to the governor of Delta State, and he saw potential in me, and he gave me access to the tools I'm using to thrive today. And I've been following him. I seek from his banquet of knowledge, and today I'm where I am, and I'm still in the process of discovering myself. But this is not to say I'll take everything about him, despite he's a very, very good man. So, as young people, we must place ourselves strategically in where we can, do better and mirror excellence to other of our worlds. And a lot of young persons today, they don't want to learn through the ropes. You just want to become the president when you don't have any idea of what leadership is. You just want to become a governor when you don't have any idea of how people get to where they are. So from what they said, mentorship is key, but leaders must emit good rays. They must always know that their actions and inactions becomes our inheritance. And the things they do wrong becomes the burden of the next generation, which is our generation. That is why we are very, very passionate. We are craving for a better Nigeria, because if we don't act now, nothing will change. And if nothing changes, Victor, there's problem for our children and the next generation behind them. So we must act now, because if we don't act, things will not. It's a period of falling out. Whoever is not doing right, we call that person out.
Well,
diplomatically.
Well, exactly. I was going to say you have to be diplomatic about it and watch your back and cover your steps as well. But let me hold you there for a quick second, as well as you. We need to take a quick break, and I'll be back in a moment to, of course, continue this discussion. Please stay with us. Well, there you go. That was the break. Welcome back. Of course, we still have with us our panelists right here in the Abuja studio, as well as via Zoom. So just before we went on the break, speaking of mentorship, what young people need to do in terms of, following and, just to ensure that they get the capacity, the character, like you made mention of earlier on. I'm just trying to do an overlook, of those who have been appointed. Let me put this to Elvis. In terms of all those who have been appointed and given portfolios now, how fit would you say they are? I mean, for the roles or for the ministries that they have been assigned to?
I believe that the president must have checked their pedigree, their track records, and all that before assigning portfolios. Because you don't give people who are not in sync with a particular ministry where they will not thrive. And because if they fail, the ripple effect goes back to the president and his cabinet. So I think they must have done due diligence to those persons they appointed. So I believe they'll do well, and I believe they are fit for those positions. But while I'm always passionate about it, that Ministry of Youth Development, because today's society, Nigeria today is overwhelmed with young people who are plagued with helplessness and lack. So the Minister for Youth has a whole lot of the issues about wearing, because he has to. There should be policies that will make young people stay back in Nigeria and grow Nigeria. Back in my state, Delta State, our governor, Right Honorable Sheriff, has been able to, put young persons with character capacity in his cabinet. I presume. I'm thinking he will be inaugurating them tomorrow. Like I always tell young people or people being given opportunities, that your actions and inactions when you're in that office, whether open or shut doors of opportunities for young people. If you do well, more young persons will come in. If you don't do well, the other generation, they will tell us that we're not ready. They will give examples of people who didn't do well. So I'm looking, while I wish all appointees, be it young, be it old, all the best in their endeavors, whatever they do in their ministries. Let's always remember that it's a quest to make Nigeria better. It's not a quest to protect interests. If our system is not working, Nigeria will go into extinction, and we don't want that now.
Indeed, we do not want that. But, let me again bring this to you, because speaking of expectations, and, having someone to look up to, in your particular field, earlier on you made mention of security, which is one of the ministries that I have seen a lot of comments about, on social media and even offline, when you hear people just having this discuss as to, who is placed in a particular place. But in the ministry, I mean, this is not the first time where you have a person without a military background, so to speak, or security background, being appointed minister. President Obasanjo actually appointed Kwankwaso Minister of Defense in 2003 after he lost the election in Kano. And of course, people have been, speaking about the current Minister of Defense. But in all of this now, what would be your expectation from that ministry especially? Yeah,
I mean, I think just on a general note, there's the expectation of not really thinking about the persons who have been profiled as not, would I say, not as rulers, but as leaders. I think if we bring the conversation to leadership and also visionary leadership, I think it really wouldn't matter who is put in any ministry or any portfolio. Now, what we have been used to in Nigeria is that we've been used to...
I thought experience would count as well.
Yes, experience would count, but if you look at leaders from the past and you try to juxtapose what they've done, you would often see that they are persons who necessarily may not be experts in a particular field, but then they have the opportunity to lead, and because of the mind and the mindset they have, they've groomed themselves and they've kind of like built themselves with visionary aspects of their lives and being focused on what they need to do. You would see that they were able to bring transformation in time. So let's go back a bit. If you look at some of our past leaders, if you look at the likes of Nnamdi Azikiwe, look at the Awolowos and the likes of Ahmadu Bello, for example, you can see that these are leaders that had vision for their people. At the core of it, in their heart, they wanted to frame the society to kind of like be the vision for what everybody expected it to be. And so you would expect that as a politician, for example, you want to frame society for the good lifestyle that people expect things to be. Now, bringing that back to our time, what you see is that Africa has been used to this concept of rulership, where you have a big man somewhere and he subjects everybody to kind of like be under their authority. But yeah, you understand, and that's not really the idea of leadership. Now, when you talk about leadership, it's more of bringing about vision, transformational leadership that's able to impact the lives of people regardless of whatever portfolio, whatever experience that they have. And I think that's what we need at this time. I hope that the people that have been put in these ministries actually are visionary leaders, and they're able to paint the future of what they desire for us as a people. And for me, I think it would typically be the test of time, over time, that we'll be able to see some of all these things play out. Any permutations we try to tinker around, whether from anyone's experience or what they've done in the past, will just be us making guesses based off of perhaps whatever in the public domain. But my expectation is that the people that have been nominated as ministers and now have been assigned portfolios would be able to bring a sense of visionary leadership to everybody. And of course, there are particular ministries which I'm definitely hoping to see transformation. Of course, you've mentioned security, and security is an important part. The way we secure needs to move from this reactive approach to more of a very pragmatic, forward-thinking approach in terms of how we do things. We're in the age of information. Now, how can we take advantage of all of these things? How can we innovate around things like e-government solutions, and then trying to see how we can bring more robust ideas into frontiers? Now, the reality of it is that we are actually at an advantage. Why? Because Nigeria can leapfrog from where it is now to the future, because if you look at more of the developed economies, you can kind of like think around what they've done and then tailor their solutions to kind of like our own domain. And I'm expecting that that's what's going to happen in the area of security. But tackling security is not just about, going to buy guns and then going to invest in weapons, etc., etc.
I think intel gathering, and then there's a lot of other components.
But I think a critical part of it is also education. And I'm particularly interested about the profile of the person who is the Minister for Education. Yes, and I see that he kind of like already has a stint at it. I'm also particularly interested in health as well, because I can see, I think it's Ali Pate. Professor. Professor as well. These are people that have very robust background in terms of some of the fundamental ministries that you actually need to keep an economy together. I'm also quite interested to see what some of the younger chaps and ladies are going to do. I'm particularly interested in the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, which is being headed by Bosun. Dr. Bosun Tijani. And interestingly, I actually met him in 2018 at the CCO Binyaba. My organization had actually went on to do like a short program with them, and it was amazing to see some of the things he was doing at the time. I really hope he can bring that to fore.
I was just going to say that, the expectation is that all of these people with all of the beautiful resumes, packed resumes, would bring all of their experience into play as they assume, office as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But I have to say thank you, of course, for sharing insights, your thoughts on this, and also say thank you to Elvis, who joined us via Zoom from Monrovia. Elvis, again, thanks as well to you for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Victor. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely, anytime. Thanks as well to you. Well, that's where we are. That's where we'll wrap up the show this week. Thank you so very much for watching. And again, our hope is that moving forward, all of those who have been appointed and assigned ministries would do the best to ensure that they transform the fortunes of Nigerians and Nigeria so that we move from where we are to where we need to be and hold our heads high amongst the Committee of Nations. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. We'll leave you with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Bye for now.
A terrible economic situation. Everybody knows it. the government inherited an economy in which
the video of former Edo State Governor and serving Senator Adams Oshomole maintaining that the current administration met a terrible economic situation kicks off this week's most viewed videos.
Service our dead body, spending 90.
But when the sun goes down, the other side of Baby Allen crawls out.
It is followed by a report on the red light district in Lagos.
Sex for sale.
Whether you're a politician, whether you're not a politician, whether you belong to party A or you belong to party B.
Third spot is taken by the Minister of FCT, assuring the President of his commitment to justify his appointment.
And I can tell you, what is important, there's no thing like magic. What is important is what passion do you have? What commitment? Do you love your people?
I served in Abeokuta with a company called George Wimpy Nigeria Limited, then building the Oyan River Dam. I worked for a few months.
The Senate President asking former Governor El-Rufai not to answer a petition on security during the ministerial screening comes in second.
Farm, El-Rufai and Partners. The farm still exists. It's one of the largest quantity surveying farms in the country.
While the review of the plans by ECOWAS on the Niger coup by an analyst takes the top spot in this week's chart.